All right, folks. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of XenTegra's Webinar Wednesdays. This week we got a very focused topic, which means we're going to have a very focused group. So we're going to be talking about Citrix Cloud Gov and kind of talking more about the apps and desktops piece. But I'll do a little precursor around Azure and how Azure is going to fit in, and then kind of dovetails into Glenn, who's going to be presenting today. All right. So on the phone today, we have three presenters. We got myself. I'm Pete Downing. I'm the CMTO for XenTegra, and I basically try to facilitate these and add some color. And then also on the phone, I got Ryan Bells. So Ryan, if you just want to give yourself a quick intro, please.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Pete, and thanks everybody for joining. So yeah, I'm one of our senior account executives and the director of our federal practice here at XenTegra. So anything that you guys need from us on the federal side as a follow-up from this, I'm available as that point of contact for you. So once again, thanks everybody for jumping on today to listen in.
All right, and then also on the phone, I got Mr. Glenn Roth, who I've met way back when. And Glenn, just give yourself a little intro.
Sure, Glenn Roth, Citrix Principal Sales Engineer. Been with Citrix for about 6 years, and prior to that, I was an integrator for 10. So been working with the Citrix products for quite a long time.
And then also we have a surprise guest, Nelson, if you just want to give yourself a quick intro as well.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Pete. This is Nelson Diaz. I manage the sales team down at headquarters for Citrix. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, guys. So yeah, we got a nice panel here. Between the four of us, we have a lot of expertise around government agencies and selling into the government, but also the technologies that kind of augment the government and what you guys need and want. So, all right. So here's a quick agenda. I typically like to do a introduction with some polls. So I try to get you guys involved, and then we're going to jump into Citrix Cloud Gov overview, and then finally dovetail it with a little bit about who is XenTegra, and Ryan and I can tell you how we can work with the various people on the phone. So as far as housekeeping goes, we are in a GoToWebinar. You are muted. However, we encourage Q&A. So there is a Q&A dialogue. Please throw some questions in there, because without questions, it's not fun. So if you have any questions, throw them in. I pay attention to those, and I try to throw them in where the topic aligns, and we keep the conversation very active. And then towards the end, if you want to ask a question, even towards the end, and you want to be unmuted, we can do that as well. So so definitely ask questions throughout. We encourage it, and I actually try to keep it going and keep it a little bumpy if possible. So any good questions helps us kind of cater to you guys and the content. All right, so really quick, the topic today is going to be mainly around Citrix Cloud Gov. However, underneath the covers, is Azure Government. So we'll touch a little bit about that. And really, what's cool is XenTegra, alongside of Citrix and Microsoft, we've launched a new workshop where we come in and teach you about Azure and then how does Citrix Cloud fit into that. So keep an eye out for those. We're going to be launching a series of those across 21 cities and online in the next probably week. I'm just finalizing some of the locations and locking down conference rooms and all that good stuff. So watch for those. So why Citrix Cloud Gov and Microsoft Azure Government? Well, the first thing is dedicated instances. That's the big driver to Azure Gov, right? You need to have a dedicated instance. So Microsoft is one of the only public cloud providers out there that can provide a dedicated instance in a certified data center across various regions throughout the US. And that kind of plays into the next bucket is compliance. And I'll show a logo slide of all the different compliances, but Microsoft Azure and Citrix are working very hard to get things like FedRAMP or NIST and things like that. And finally, level 5 DoD. So I would say those three are the biggest three that make Gov Cloud what it is today, and also security-wise. So I always ask myself, hey, do you need to be Gov to be using Gov Cloud? Probably not. I mean, if you're very security-minded, and you need a dedicated instance, I get a lot of finance shops that want to be more secure. It'd be a good solution for them. Yeah, they're going to pay a little more, but security is top of mind. Finally, hybrid flexibility. And you know, what does that mean? That means that you can keep some stuff in your data center and put some stuff up in Azure, or keep some of your Citrix environment in your data center and manage it with the cloud platform. And we'll cover a little bit about that. And then, you know, I gotta say, Azure is innovating all the time. And I'd say Azure is one of my favorite clouds, but I see a lot of innovation. They're trying to keep lockstep with a lot of the security issues that are out there today. And you're seeing a lot of innovation around Internet of Things and data, et cetera. So, you know, keep an eye out on that as well. And you'll see that there's a lot of innovation. And that goes into Citrix as well. They got Citrix Synergy coming up. Obviously, if you're not going to go to Synergy next week, keep an eye out, because I think there's going to be some interesting announcements around, you know, security, et cetera. So really quick before we jump into, and then, you know, you can see some of the certifications. So these are all the certifications for Azure. And, you know, obviously the big one is FedRAMP. And Glenn will talk a little bit about, you know, where Citrix fits into some of these certifications. So before we jump in, I want to do some polls. And I like to do polls because polls drive conversation, and they allow us to kind of cater the content. So the first poll I want to ask the attendees on the phone, and again, I can't see who's answering, totally anonymous, so don't worry, is, are you looking at cloud in the next year? So cloud can be, you know, Azure, AWS, we don't care. Are you looking at cloud in the next year? So if you can take a minute to answer the poll, I'll give it about 10 seconds. And I like to get at least 70%. That way we have statistically relevant data. All right, we got 100%. Awesome. That means you guys are all paying attention. So 100% say yes. So that's kind of a gimme question, but you know, you never know. Maybe people say no. All right, so the next question. Are you a current user of Citrix Gov Cloud, or even just cloud in general, Citrix Cloud in general? It doesn't have to necessarily be Citrix Cloud Gov. It could be Citrix Cloud, period. So, you know, just take a minute to answer this question. And, you know, if you're piloting it, say maybe. If you're considering it, say no, considering it. And if you're on the radar, no, on the radar, just say on the radar. If you're just no, use the last option. So we'll give it a couple seconds. And again, I can't see who's answering, so don't worry. All right, going once. There's one more person. Got a holdout. All right, so a good chunk of you actually current customers. So that's good to know. And then a chunk of you are considering it. So that's interesting. All right, so the next question, what is your biggest hurdle to implementing, you know, just cloud in general? Is it, you know, and again, biggest hurdle, you know, I know you could probably tick all these, but is it security? Is it talent? You know, meaning, are you having trouble finding the right people? Is it time to implement? You know, because we don't have a lot of time. Is it cost? Or is it not strategic? So just interesting to see what you guys put. So give it a couple seconds. Let's try to get at least 100% again going. And again, I can't see who's answering, so don't worry. And again, the biggest one, and it could be from your point of view too. It doesn't have to be necessarily from your CIO or CTO's point of view. All right, going once, going twice, and 3 times, and we're gonna share. So interestingly, all right, we got time to implement. That's what I see, believe it or not, is time. And then security. So I'd say those two kind of go, typically are the top 2 that I see. Talent, I've heard, is another issue. And then cost, you know, it depends. It all depends on how you look at cost, but if you're interested in the cost conversation, definitely reach out. I do a lot of cost conversations with my customers and clients. So, all right, final poll, I promise. All right, are you guys looking at Office 365? So, you know, yes, I use it with Exchange on-prem. Yes, I use it with Exchange Online, currently deploying on Radar, or you use Chrome Enterprise, which I'd be surprised for some, but we do get 1 or 2 every now and again. So give that a couple seconds. All right, going once, going twice, and 3 times. So, all right, good chunk of you are, you know, I'd say half and half are going Exchange Online and Exchange on-prem, and then the other half are going, yeah, it's on the radar, something I'm looking at. So again, I could probably guess why. So, you know, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Ryan and I, and we can help you through the hurdles of Office 365 as well. All right, so let's dive in and talk about Citrix Cloud Gov. And what I'm going to do is pass the baton over to Mr. Glenn, and he's going to take us through Citrix Cloud Gov and kind of highlight, the value of what Citrix is doing in the secure space around, cloud and cloud government. So with that, Glenn, thanks for taking the time today, and appreciate having you on.
Oh, definitely, no problem. Do you see my deck here?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right, so yeah, I wanted to take a few minutes here, just kind of go over kind of some of the challenges and stuff that we see from the Citrix perspective for our government and security-minded customers. Step through how we kind of integrate and what the technical solution looks like. So kind of get things kicked off here. When we think about today's challenges, really it's all about security and mobility, right? So we take the first two there. Secure access is obviously key for any organization, specifically government customers, but also mobility, right? So we're seeing more and more agencies with field users and stuff like that need to be able to access the data securely, and obviously we want to be the ones to help them with that. And then lastly is hardware cost. Have always been a concern, and how we can kind of augment some of that by moving to the cloud with some of our auto scale and stuff like that, and how that all pulls together. So when we look at everything, right? Identity and analytics and apps and desktops, data collaboration, kind of our whole workspace suite. Many of it seems like many of you, based on the polls, of our existing Citrix customers and whatnot, but really we want to kind of take that to the next level, with what we call the Citrix Workspace, right? So that's where everything's going to be part of this workspace that you can access. Not only just your traditional apps and desktops, but we can tie into different SaaS apps, based on where you're at, any endpoint, stuff like that. So today we're a little bit deeper into the secure apps and desktops portion of that. The reason that we're only going to be going into that is because that's what we have with Citrix Cloud Government today. So for the entire workspace, we're working on getting the entire Citrix solution and space into Citrix Cloud Government on top of Azure Gov. We chose apps and desktops as our first piece to that puzzle. So we have quite a few agencies testing it out today. I have one larger agency that did a multi-month POC, and very happy with it, and looking to move forward here in the next month or two with a agency-wide deployment. So exciting things happening there. Let's see. Okay. Moving on to the next one here. Oh, there we go. So, why Citrix Cloud Government? So a lot of our customers, they've been using our Citrix, control plane in our commercial side for years, right? We've had it out for 5+ years. We have thousands of customers and users on there. So the reason we came up with Citrix Cloud Government is around a few different things, right? So working towards a lot of the security requirements that our government customers have that maybe some of our commercial entities don't. So we talk about things like FIPS 140-2, HIPAA, working towards FedRAMP. So we've actually done a lot of all the paperwork on that. We're actually working with an agency to be a sponsor, and hopefully finishing up the FedRAMP process here by the end of the year. Obviously that can always shift, but right now that's the goal is by the end of 2019 to have that all wrapped up. And also with the IT productivity, just reducing hardware costs. So you look at kind of the traditional model where we had big storage arrays, and we had big server banks, all that type of stuff, and then we had to manage that and pay for it and pool it and all that type of stuff. By moving to the cloud, and specifically like Azure Gov, we can scale up, scale down. We're only using what we actually need, so we're not just have wasted CPU cycles kind of sitting there running idle. and all this is to support that mobile workforce that we're seeing more and more agencies with, full-time telework, or just field agents or something like that need to move about and still have access to that secure data. So real quick, Pete, just want to check in. Any questions coming in?
Not yet. So again, folks, if you have any questions, that on the top of your mind, whatever, please shoot. All right. So we're here to answer questions.
So, one of the things with Citrix Cloud Government, I like to call it CCG for short. The advantage is the platform or control plane itself. It is running on Azure Gov. But with that being said, we can connect into other platforms as well. Google, Oracle, AWS, and also on-prem. So I have a few customers I'm actually working with that they're just tired of managing that backend Citrix environment. And I said, all right, well, let's move you guys to the cloud. They're like, well, we don't want everything in the cloud. And I said, well, that's fine. We can manage your Citrix environment, but still have all your workloads on-prem if that's a requirement, or in the cloud, right? So, or we can support both. So really, that's some of the advantages to moving to CCG is that you have so many options, and it gets you out of that upgrade cycles and all that type of stuff, because Citrix manages all that for you. It just gives you so much flexibility for your users and for your environment. All right, so I'm going to start diving into the architecture a little bit. I get these questions all the time, like, yeah, it sounds great, but how does it work, right? So, it's one architecture for both apps and desktops, kind of very similar to anyone who's been running any of the current release, apps and desktops for on-prem, but it's all cloud managed, right? So what that means is, we're all your kind of delivery controller functionality, all that type of stuff, we're actually running that, monitoring that, making sure that those services are up to date for you. Now, many of you have used Citrix in the past, so a lot of the consoles such as Studio and Director that you're used to, we still provide all of that with the the built-in management and support tools, and as usual, we can support multiple OSs in the cloud, right? So, kind of our traditional, XenApp technology with the apps, with the Windows Server OS, Windows 7, 8, and 10 for the desktop side, and then Linux as well. But that kind of traditional, multi-OS support is still there. All right, so to kind of take it a step further, right? Excuse me. So, on the left, this kind of shows how Citrix, how we can manage multiple kind of environments, right? So on the left is Citrix Cloud. That's our kind of commercial, deployment there. In the middle, we still have that on-prem current release delivery controller for your different virtual delivery agents. And then on the right is Citrix Cloud Government, right? So we kind of support any customer based on their role or security needs, whether that is in our commercial cloud, on-prem, or Citrix Cloud Government, with the multiple VDAs available. So when we dive into Citrix Cloud Government, I want to talk about the connectors, right? So within CCG, we're managing the delivery controllers, the Workspace app functionality, the site database, all that kind of back-end stuff that most of our customers just got wanted to offload, we've taken on. And then we can install these connectors into multiple agencies, as I said before. So for the purposes of this discussion, I have three kind of set up here. Azure, as we spoke about earlier, AWS GovCloud, and on-prem. Now, with CCG, we can do one of them. We can do all three. So it's kind of interesting. I cover a large territory within federal, and seeing all the different agencies and how they really deploy this is quite unique. So I have one agency that Azure is their primary Citrix location, and AWS is their secondary in their DR, right? So I actually have customers that are using multi-cloud as their DR strategy. I have some that are using on-prem as their primary and cloud as their DR. So it's just interesting to see kind of the mix on the deployments and architectures there. Just want to take a quick pause here and just throw something out to Steve, see if, or not Steve, I apologize, reach out to Pete here and see if there's anything he's seen from his perspective with customers and using multi-cloud.
Yeah, no, it's actually I was going to chime in, but one of the things I've been doing cloud now. Well, I was at Citrix, but as kind of a as a XenTegra, probably for 2 years solid, and then the year before that as well, but with other software partners of Citrix. So, but in my experience, I mean, yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I have a lot of customers who see the value in Citrix Cloud generally from the control plane point of view, because it's a single pane of glass, and then you can look at you can do Azure Gov, you could do you can even do an on-prem, and then you can even mix in a non like Azure Gov. But the primary driver right now that I'm seeing is, hey, I want to have DR and put workloads up in Azure for overflow, or for if the what if scenario, or even hey, it's a snow day and people got to work from home and I got a little more load than normal. So those are the primary drivers. But really the value here is, hey, I can have one pane of glass to manage these different entities, and the connector is what makes it seamless and a lot easier than if you were just an on-prem. So imagine taking that on-prem instance and then having to create a zone up in AWS GovCloud and another zone up in Azure Gov. It gets fairly challenging. So the connector makes it a lot easier, and then the control plane just makes it simple. So it kind of addresses the issue of time.
Definitely. So that kind of takes me to my next slide here. Everything we just talked about, with the cloud service load balancing, DR, how we handle failures, the whole thing, it's been designed as that global central single pane of glass for all Citrix, right? So as I said with CCG, we're starting with apps and desktops and expanding that out over the next year. But it's pretty cool to see how everyone's using this. Let's see here. Yep, let's talk about the Citrix Cloud connectors, right? So what does that mean? So essentially what we're doing is we're installing a server in each one of these resource locations, and then all that traffic for the machine images, machine connections, connection states, and metadata is going to be going over HTTPS, right? So we built it so that it's all SSL, HTTPS, and all your authentication and everything would go through that. So the advantage to that is we don't have to work with networking teams to open up a bunch of different firewall ports and all that type of stuff. It's very quick and seamless to get that up and running. So this is just a little more info on the Cloud Connector here. Installed on domain joined 2012 R2 or newer. Server OS, it's all outbound 443, and the auto updater will keep that up to date as well, so you guys don't have to worry about that either. But it's pretty sweet how the whole technology works, so that we don't have to worry about opening up all these different firewall ports, ports on the firewall and different roles. I've deployed this with a couple different agencies, and the Cloud Connector definitely makes it very simple and kind of streamlined, so to speak.
Yeah, one thing to add too with the Cloud Connectors is, think of the Cloud Connector as the thing that connects the entity to the control plane. And then what I always tell my customers is, hey, that's an extension of the Citrix control plane down to your premise. And so you think of the cloud connector as you get it spun up and then you don't touch it. So so it is really nice. And you know, at the end of the day, once you get these things set up, they're pretty easy to maintain, and you really don't touch them. So
definitely. So kind of give a, you know, we've talked about multiple pieces here. I wanted to throw up a entire architecture overview of this, right? So kind of everything that we talk about, that backend infrastructure here. We have, you know, Studio, Director, and License Server. That's all managed with CCG. The Workspace service itself with the delivery controllers, the, you know, databases, all that type of you know, stuff is also managed. The cloud connectors, as we said, is auto update. The one thing I do want to point out here, right now we have the NetScaler gateway, you know, within the resource location, so we can use that to load balance cloud connectors. But also, just wanted to point out that we have released gateway service in CCG as well now, so we can actually manage up in the control plane the access gateway portion to allow users in and out. So that was something released last month. So need to update my deck here. But yeah, kind of the high level there. I guess kind of to recap, you know, it is that single pane of glass. We take away that kind of day-to-day admin of the servers and backend infrastructure over for you, so that we can manage what actually matters, which is getting the proper apps and desktops to your users and doing that securely. So that's kind of all I had from a presentation perspective. So if anyone had any questions or whatnot, you know, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so there's a good question from Fred. So Fred asks, does the cloud connector for Citrix Cloud Gov differ from the public connector in that the credentials are encrypted before they hit the cloud, or do both versions of the connector perform in this fashion?
I believe the connector is the same for both commercial and Gov cloud control planes.
Yeah, and yeah, Fred. So if you need any info on that, you know, definitely reach out. I can send you some other info. But you know, I concur. I think the connectors are both the same. The difference is where the platform is being hosted, and then you know, so obviously you're gaining the benefit of the Azure Government Cloud versus, you know, traditional Azure, right? And then as far as the connector is still going to perform the same action. It's still going to have the same level of security, et cetera. And I'm imagining as part of the certifications, Glenn, that the connector is going to be part of that.
Definitely, yep.
So really quick, folks, I just want to bring this up. It kind of hit me as I was sitting here today. You know, I'll just show you guys what kind of the, you know, if you haven't played with the cloud, you know, here's a little view into the Citrix Cloud. And, you know, I like to show this because it kind of shows the integration points that Citrix does have with various platforms. So, you know, to Glenn's point, you know, if you really look at that single pane of glass notion, you know, Citrix has done a great job at, you know, really, you know, making, you know, obviously the cloud itself a platform that you can utilize, but also simplifying it by enabling you just to install a connector and then plug the cloud into your target, you know, hypervisor and or cloud. So if I hit this down box here, you can see that there's a lot of different options here. And, you know, depending on the option I pick, will give me different options. So for example, if I click on Microsoft Azure, you know, I can go and select the various clouds. So you'll notice, hey, there's Azure Global, Azure China, and Azure US Government. So I can pick that, and that's the government cloud. So, you know, it gives you the flexibility to really, you know, select the different, you know, cloud scenarios and plug in your different scenario, you know, your different use cases into Citrix Cloud. So for example, again, if I go and pick on Google Cloud, you know, I can import my key and, you know, give it a connection name, and then same goes for EC2, Amazon EC2. All right, and I can go in and pull that in. So again, it gives you good flexibility, so you're not cloud locked in, and enables a lot of great use cases. So again, if there's any questions on, kind of Gov Cloud or just Citrix Cloud in general, feel free to ask. I can definitely bring up some other UIs and screens. And what I'll do is I'm going to do a little recap on, who is XenTegra, and how can Ryan and XenTegra help you guys kind of figure out this whole, what is Citrix Cloud, how does the government fit in. And so, again, if there's any questions around, Citrix Cloud, Citrix Workspace, Synergy next week, definitely put them into the Q&A dialogue. We can answer them and help make sure we hit all the points of the webinar today. So again, things to think about. If you're interested, Ryan can definitely help with looking at, hey, if you want to go deeper into Citrix Cloud, we can enable you to get a demo and POC. We work with the team and spin you guys up. If you have any questions on Azure, we have a whole team dedicated to Microsoft Azure. If you're looking to purchase, we can help you with that. We can manage the instance, so we do have a full managed service offering. And then finally, we do offer the ability to come in and do the configuration, consulting, etc. So we do have a team of consultants. Actually, we have a couple guys that actually sit in the DC area. So things to think about. So again, this is Andy. He's our founder. And Andy founded XenTegra with kind of two things in mind. One, he wants to enable his customer base. So there's a lot of things out there today in the end user computing environments. And he wanted to be able to enable you guys to truly understand the technologies that you own. And then two, he wants to form true partnerships with companies like Citrix and some of the other companies in our stack. And really, this was driven by, when he was at Citrix, he was an SE, and he would go into customers and you would see that they're not fully utilizing their stack. So he got very frustrated, and that's how XenTegra was born. And one of the reasons why I joined is because, one, I love obviously what I do, but I love interacting with my customers and clients and really, trying to enable them to get the most out of what they purchase. So again, what is XenTegra? Who is XenTegra? We are a reseller in the classical sense, but we obviously don't want to just sell you something and run out the door. We're also going to come in and we can provide consultants. We can be an advisor. We can share our experience, et cetera. But the reason why you work with a partner is you have that one throat to choke, so to speak, and you're able to, get multiple solutions under one vendor on one single invoice. So if you are truly looking at Azure and Citrix together, we can provide a nice end-to-end solution stack and help you guys get it implemented top to bottom, as well as some of the other partners in our stack. So again, here's a listing of all our partners, and you can see top to bottom. We have a lot of great partners. I would say, the top three tiers are what I would call my strategic partners, and then obviously we focus on end user computing. Citrix is our blood, Microsoft is our blood, and we look at those as very strategic focused partners. All right, so if you have any questions at all on any of these partners, let us know. I know most of these guys because I've been around so long. And then also we do offer a managed service stack. So if you are, hey, a lot of you mentioned time, but yeah, I get it. I don't have a lot of time in my day. I dread opening up my email every day. But at the end of the day, we can manage this for you. So we can come in top to bottom, manage your Citrix Cloud, or top to bottom, manage your Citrix Cloud plus Azure. So that's something to think about. We also have support, a support team and support contracts as well. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. We are a Microsoft solutions provider, so we can resell both Office and Microsoft Azure, as well as manage it for you. So this is a handful of our customer base. Obviously, because of the sensitivity of government, I can't show you the agencies we work with, but we do work with a lot of government agencies, and they range from traditional gov all the way into outside contractor type stuff as well. So we do cover a lot of government agencies, but I can't show those logos, but I can show you some of our core customers, and you can see we do have a lot of great customers. And again, finally, if you are interested in getting more free trainings, let us know. We can implement. We do a lot of free training, and we do. And I'm going to be building out a nice list of net new trainings in the next week for the second half of the year. So keep an eye out on our website, and you'll see a lot more workshops, webinars, and trainings coming out over the next week. One of the ones I'm working on right now, and it's going to probably go up in the next 24 hours, is a recap on Synergy, which I imagine I'm going to get a lot of people to show up on. So I'll be putting that up, so keep an eye out for that. And speaking of Citrix Synergy, if you haven't got your pass, and you still are interested in going, it's next week. It's down in Atlanta, and it's a great event. So if you're looking to still get there, let us know. We can get you one of two ways. If you have a renewal coming up in the next month, if you renew through us, we take dollars and give them back to you, so you can get the Synergy, at a huge discount and sometimes for free. Or we can take $200 off the government price of the Synergy Pass. So if you are interested in getting to Synergy, let us know. It's not too late, and if you live nearby and you can drive, hey, it's an event well worth going to attend. So with that, I'm going to check the Q&A dialogue one more time, and again, I encourage any question and answer. And there was one great question, but again, if you have any follow-up questions, definitely let us know. And while you guys are noodling on, if you have any other questions, I am going to bring up the information on all the presenters. So you have myself, Pete Downing, you got Ryan, who's our client executive for mainly government, but he does cover outside of Gov, and then Glenn, who's the SE at Citrix that we work very heavily with. So if you have any questions beyond today on what is Citrix Cloud, Citrix Workspace, you want to dig a little deeper, let us know. We can help you get the POC up and running. So one more check of the Q&A dialogue. All right, and there is no more questions. So what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap this up, and I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join today and kind of get our overview on what is Citrix Cloud Gov. And again, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you at Synergy next week. And with that, I'll say have a great day and have the great rest of your weeks.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Glenn.